So last weekend, Sunderland lose 3-0 away at Coventry. Bearing in mind I paid pretty much £100 to go down and watch that nonsense. And then Newcastle win the Carabao Cup, ending their nearly 70-year wait for a major trophy. Safe to say we've had better weekends. And also one last thing. Can I change sport and follow Quidditch instead? Does anyone know any good teams? I figured I would do this video to try and give you lots something to stew on or suffer through, depending whichever you feel is more accurate, during the international break. But I kind of wanted to sort of talk about the state of play a little bit in regards of the picture for the rest of the season, and then sort of give my thoughts heading into what is very likely going to be a playoff campaign now. But quickly, obviously, as you know, I'm trying to get to 6,000 subscribers, so if you're going to watch the video and by the end you think I've earned a subscription from you, having not been a regular subscriber already, then if you could hit the subscribe button, that'd be much appreciated. Over half of the people who watch, according to the analytics, aren't subscribed, so it's as Sean Middleton says, absolutely free, does not cost a penny. That'd be much appreciated if people could click the button below, subscribe button, respectfully comment below, share the video around if you wish to, that'd be much appreciated. I don't usually like asking for things, but as Jam Sarni's found out, if you start asking and if you start saying these things, your subscriber count does start to shoot up a bit. So come on, let's try and get to 6k by the end of the season if we can. I appreciate that might be quite ambitious, but why not go for it? So anyway, as the title of the video says, well yeah, we pretty much need to give everything ahead of the run-in that what we do have, because I looked at the fixtures we had left, and I actually did a championship predictor last night and I'll put the results up on screen now, whichever direction it is. As you can see from the picture to the side of your screen right now, I predicted Sunderland to finish on 83 points. Now, for context, if you want to know the exact results I did predict, I predicted us to draw with Millwall, one word or one phrase, Alex Neil. I went for us to lose away at West Brom, partly because of the whole Tony Mowbray narrative that'll surround that game, but also because West Brom are battling and really need to get into the play and need to win to get in the playoffs. This is the one result I did change, because originally I would say we were going to draw at Norwich, and I said we'd maybe beat at Norwich if Norwich are pretty much out of the playoffs. I know a lot of people feel they probably are, and I know particularly Chris Reeve from Talk Norwich City, great podcast by the way, he feels that he said since they drew with Oxford the day before we beat Cardiff that they're out of it. So I said we'd beat Norwich, purely because of the mood round there at the minute alone, but that could change in the next couple of weeks. I said we'd beat Swansea, we would lose at Bristol City, beat Blackburn, draw with Oxford, just because I think they might need, if they need something in order to give themselves a better chance of staying up, and I said we'd beat QPR on the last day. Oxford, I think, could change to a win if they're already safe by that point. But as you can also see, just looking at the predicted final table after 46 games, ouch. We've got Coventry. If I'm right, and by the way, when I did these predictions, I deliberately didn't look at the league table as I was going along, because I didn't want that to influence what I was saying. But I've said that Coventry and Sunderland will meet in the playoffs, and that's going to be wowzer. And as you know, our record against Coventry, to put it bluntly, is garbage. Certainly since we ended up meeting in 2018, because we hadn't beaten them since 2007. But between 2007 and 2018, there was obviously an 11-year gap where, if I'm right, that Sunderland and Coventry didn't play each other in any competition, I think, let alone the league. And then obviously the sequence has always been a bloody draw, loss, draw, loss, draw, loss, draw, loss, draw, loss. Every time we've played Coventry since we've been in League One. So it's about time that hoodoo ends. It's about time that we actually end that ridiculous hoodoo against Coventry. But hey-ho. But I kind of wanted to sort of talk about briefly just my thoughts ahead of the last 8 games, because, look, I think we're kind of in the potentially dangerous situation now of knowing that we're not going to make the top 2, because mathematically, while there'll be some that will still believe it's possible, it's 11 points. We're not going to overturn that. And I know that, and if you watch Black Cats TV, which is with Mike and Conrad, 2 great guys, if I remember to, I'll put the link in the description below, but we had a conversation on their channel. It's already uploaded earlier in the week. And Mike was going on about, I think Mike was kind of alluding to the fact that, top 2 and talking about top 2. I was like, Mike, it's done. Shut up. Like, with the greatest respect in the world to the guy, like, shut up. Top 2 is just not happening. Simple as that. Whereas now I think we're 10 points above Coventry, and we're currently, I think it's like 12 points above 7th. I'll double check that. Yeah, 12 points above 7th, 10 and 6th as well, and 10 points above 5th. Now, obviously, the worry is that if we have a couple of bad results further and Coventry's form continues the way it is, then like that, the gap suddenly changes. It significantly reduces, if not vanishes altogether. Do I think that'll happen? No. I do think Sunderland will get enough points to make sure we secure 4th. And if you believe in the home advantage second leg in the playoffs, then, that's obviously a good thing. But I would also remind people that in the League One years, yeah, as Graham Falkwer said on his podcast, you don't really want to forget that, but the 2 times we got to the final, the first season under Jack Ross and the last season under Alex Neil, we were at home first leg, won 1-0 the first leg and drew the second leg away from home, in the case of Pompey and Sheff Wed respectively. The one time we had the home leg second was in 2021 when we had Lee Johnson at the helm, and we lost 2-0 away at Lincoln in the first leg, and that left too much to do in the second leg. So, while in theory having a home advantage second is a good thing, it's only an advantage if you get a result in the first leg. And even then, it's not a sure win that you go through. You remember when Coventry played Middlesbrough in the playoffs in our first season back in the Championship? They drew 0-0 at the CBS, and everybody, and probably including myself, thought Borough will win the second leg and go through. And Coventry ended up defying the odds to a degree and ended up winning 1-0. Just because you're at home second leg doesn't guarantee anything. You need to go out and turn up over the 2 games. But I think the main thing from Sunderland's point of view now is what we need to do is, look, at the time, there's been rumours that Dennis Cirkin could be out for 6 to 8 weeks. And I think that if that's the case, then, and by the way, it's Bradley Sharp who put that on Twitter, so it's common knowledge. He's put that out there, and he's got stuff right before when it comes to stuff like this. So assuming for a second that Dennis Cirkin will be out of the rest of the regular season, and at best will be back for the playoffs. Assuming that happens for a minute, the one thing, obviously at left back it would be a bit of concern, but the thing I would kind of want to remind people of is the next 8 games, we do have games to get a bit of momentum and a bit of form back. And I think as well, if you look at it that way, what you want to be losing the next 8 games for is a chance to manage minutes, whether through players that might need a breather, because I'm personally not a believer in that players are tired. I believe it with Chris Rigg, but I don't believe it with everybody else. Then I believe you're looking at managing players that haven't had as many minutes and get them up to speed a bit more. I'm thinking particularly like Alan Brown, and more recently Tommy Watson probably is a good example. Jensen Seelt to a degree, considering that obviously he came on against Coventry after Cirkin went off because Luke O'Nien went to left back. But this is a chance to get minutes up and gradually build things back up again. Why do I look like Charlie Methven when I'm doing that? Don't want to be associated with that man. But the point is, we can still get promoted. That's the main thing I want to look at. And I think one of the things that will happen, and by the way, it's one thing me saying we can get promoted, it's another thing actually going and getting promoted and winning the playoffs. But what I would say as well to add to that is that of our last 8 games, let's take the next 3 out of it for a second, or let's take the next 2 then. Millwall, Alex Neil, who've still got a slim chance of the playoffs, but we never beat Alex Neil anyway. We're never allowed to for some bizarre reason. And then West Brom away, who are battling for the playoffs. But if you look at, I think it's 4 or 5 of our last 6. As it stands right now, you'd look at Norwich, Swansea, Blackburn, QPR. All of them, by the time we play them, will probably end up, in terms of the table, having nothing to play for. Now, I know people can say, well, neither will Sunderland, but the difference is, we've got momentum to play for, and we've got the what's the word I'm looking for? Form aspect, I guess, or the psychological boost ahead of the playoffs of winning your last few games. That's completely different, in my opinion, to, teams are in mid-table. The caveat in the last 6 games that you got Bristol City, who, unless they drop off like a cliff, will need to get a result to have a chance of getting in the playoffs. And then there's Oxford on the last day. Now, I'm hoping that I know this sounds really sad, but this does make a difference. I'm hoping that Oxford are going to be safe by the time Sunderland go to the Kassam. And with Gary Rowett, I think Oxford will stay up, but I think I'll put us to draw with Oxford because if they need a result, I don't see us going there and winning. Whereas if they're already safe, I do see us going there and winning. And you've got to remember as well, Lefay's going to come back as well. Dan Ballard, you hope by maybe the end of the regular season might be sort of ready to come back into the fold, but we don't know yet. So I guess, look, this has been a ramble of a video, but my roundabout way of saying is we can still get promoted, but what we need to be doing in the next 8 games is that we need to be using a lot of them to really get a good run of form going, to really start to assess, and hopefully by the time the last 2 or 3 games come along, we have a good, strong idea, barring injuries, obviously, as to what our main 11's going to be ahead of the first leg of the playoffs, which, if I'm right, is going to be away at Coventry. Yay. That's going to be fun. But yeah, look, what do you guys think? I mean, look, I know it's a very disjointed video and it's a very badly organised video, to be totally honest, but I kind of wanted to I wanted to provide a little bit of calm, and I was really wanting to avoid football altogether after the weekend's results just gone. But at the same time, look, everything's happened now. Mags have won the cup, but let's not obsess over them. Sunderland obviously lost away at Coventry. Personally, for me, I think the players we demand a reaction from the players, because I feel like there was a lot of occasions in the first half at Coventry where I felt the players shirked it and didn't give 100%. And you could definitely tell Coventry wanted it a hell of a lot more than what Sunderland did. So we'll wait and see what happens in just over a week when we play Millwall at the Stadium of Light, where we want to see a response. But my point is, we can still get promoted, but we need to go into the playoffs on good momentum, because as we found out before, under Jack Ross and Lee Johnson, if you go into the playoffs on crap momentum, to be frank, then you've got next to no chance of winning them. But let's hope that's not the case. Let's wait and see what happens. Anyway, guys, what do you think? Comment below. I know it's easy to be a bit negative right now, but we'll wait and see. If we go into the playoffs on bad momentum, then I can understand it. But there's still a chance for that not to be the case. Anyway, guys, take care, you lovely lot. What are you guys doing during the international weekend? Yeah, and let's see what happens. Unless something happens in terms of a signing, in terms of big Sunderland news, then see you for the Millwall game, I guess. Alex Neil's second coming to the Stadium of Light. That's going to be fun. How are the lads?